Hi, everybody. Well, it's a brand new day at Media Central here. and yes, I have a different mug this morning. This is another one of my favorite mugs. You're looking at one side, on the other side, there's Marvin the Martian, and you see Bugs Bunny on the handle here. Everybody else hates these mugs. I adore them because they have these strange handles. They're very hard to hold. And I've had them for, I don't know, well over probably 30 years and they're very dear to my heart, and so I love them. Since I can't tell a joke, it's toy time, and the toy this morning is this little aardvark, who is very. I have a friend in the south who's, what would she say? God, she would say it's very not wholesome. I have to think of it. Anyway, so you can see he's got a good little character, and he was. I'm gonna get this wrong. He was crocheted, I guess, by my sister, who is incredibly crafty and does all kinds of amazing. I'll show you some of her tatting. She's also a tatter, knitter, sewer. She taught herself to paint. It's amazing. Anyway, she asked me if I wanted an animal, and I said, well, she showed me a book of patterns, and I said, well, that aardvark is very, oh my goodness, I cannot think of the word. Homely is not right, but basically it's the idea. It's something which is, very Hamish, warm, makes you feel warm, doesn't make you feel verklempt, doesn't make you feel choked up, but makes you feel warm inside, warm and fuzzy inside, but he's warm and fuzzy outside. Okay, so this is an aardvark. I think he has a name. I can't remember it now. He also has a little tail. Okay, he's usually sits on my scanner, which is over here, near my noisy printer, which you may have heard in my lectures. What was I going to tell you today? I've had some emails from everybody, and that's great. Keep those cards and letters coming. I will email you back. I have about 20 emails, so I will get to you. I promise. I'll do that today. I have some other stuff to do, of course. And one of the things that sort of has come up that I've been thinking about, and we'd be talking about this if we were in class together, is this notion that stuff happens without our planning it. We don't plan for things, in the sense none of us planned for this to happen. None of us, if we'd known it was coming, we would have said goodbye, and we would have been able to figure out sort of how to fold things up nicely. But life is full of course, of this kind of nonsense of not being able to get things folded up nicely. And one of the things that this makes me think about is the things that I regret in my life. I know this sounds heavy, but I promise you it's not heavy. But I was thinking about the fact that I'm sorry that I didn't see more of you. I think we were probably going to have I was going to have a chance to meet some of you who would have come to the office. And when I left Toronto after I graduated and I had gotten my doctorate and I went off to teach at UBC, I left behind. I'd been doing a degree part time at OCA. What was OCA then? Is OCAD now, and. Let me just put a plug in for my little yellow teapot too, which is a really very fine, piece of gear. I just want to point that out. And my yellow, this is a lovely cruche that a friend of mine got me. This is the best chocolate. I don't actually put chocolate milk in it. It actually has just normal milk in it. Otherwise, I can't imagine putting chocolate milk in tea, but I'm sure there is somebody who does, and they love it, and that's great. Anyway, I was leaving Toronto, and but I had been taking classes at OCA from like the early 80s, 1983, I think, the summer of 83, until basically the 1995. And I was just slowly working on courses there, doing a couple a year. And I met this amazing industrial design teacher who just turned my head around. He was amazing. And he was this wonderful Estonian character. He was this huge bear of a man. And he had survived, he left Estonia to try to escape the Russians because, the first the Nazis invaded and then the Russians pushed them out and they were like, oh, we've got to leave. So he got out of Estonia by boat, and the Wolfpack, the German submarine one of the German submarine groups was guarding the harbor, was at the mouth of so much the harbor as the outlet, and they picked him up. And they picked him up and they took him, and there's this, it's one of these crazy stories. They took him to Berlin and they put him to work in the Berlin rail yards. And every night, as if they couldn't get more surreal, every night they were bombed by the Americans because this is near the end of the war. So the Americans were bombing the Berlin rail yards to try to put the German rail out of service so that they couldn't supply the country with weapons and munitions, or with anything really, with food, anything, supplies, nothing. So they would be working on the rail, and then the bombers would start flying over, and they would all run out into the fields. This was at night, and lie down in the fields and hope they didn't get killed by the bombers. Oh my God, what a story! So his name was Velo Hubel, and he was a very sweet guy, very funny. This wonderful, tremendous personality, and he just. I just clicked with him, and he basically, I was a sort of obsessive perfectionist, and he was like, no, stop that, knock it off, just learn to draw, and learn to draw so well that you can just throw stuff away, and don't worry about throwing your drawings away because you'll just do another one. I was like, I like that, so I learned to throw my drawings away. It was a wonderful moment. At that point, I'd been studying for. Maybe I'd been at school at OCA maybe 5 years. I'd done maybe 10 courses, something like that. Anyway, it was an amazing experience. And one of the things that I left Toronto and I went to UBC, and I always thought about Velo. Whenever I'm drawing or whatever it is I'm doing, I always think about Velo, and he makes me laugh to think of him because he was such a wonderful guy. And he had such crazy stories, which were so hard to believe. And he just survived so much. And anyway, he'd become a naval architect. He could speak Russian, Estonian, German, French. He read Turgenev in Russian. Just one of these people who, oh my God, it's like, oh, just amazing. There was this whole sort of world history, all collected in this one person. He was a naval architect by training because he'd been picked up. He had to be turned into an ally, basically. So the way that the Americans dealt with that was they picked people up and they put them through the military because he wanted to come to America, or come to North America, to Canada. So he spent 2 years in the Navy, and he was a designer. He was a really good designer. But at the end of his life, he was designing children's furniture, and he was working with a guy in Quebec, and he would go out to this guy's house in rural Quebec, and they would sit down and design chairs for a week, or furniture for children for a week, and then this guy would make prototypes in wood, and it was all wood furniture. There was nothing metal in it. It was only wood. So you can just imagine what an amazing experience that must have been, and what a great time they must have had. Knowing Velo, there was a fair amount of booze that was sort of flowing under the bridge, so they must have had a good time. So he was such a wonderful person, and I met him at one point in the lobby of OCAD, and I was signing up I was there to register for some course, and he said, oh, you're a big professor. And I was like, no, I am not. I'm just still a grad student. He said, when are you going to quit that stuff and come and do a real degree here? And so I always sort of remembered him saying that, and I was very touched. And So off I went to UBC, and I had a UBC adventure, and that was great. And then I came back here, and I got this job, and that was wonderful. And when I got back to Toronto, eventually it took me a couple of months to get back to Toronto, and whoa, hang on a second. And I I asked a very dear friend of mine. I said, "How's Velo doing?" And she said, "Oh, well, he died." And I was like, "Oh no." And this is one of the times in my life that I regretted. And I seriously regretted that I had not gone and studied with him for a year in some way, even if I didn't want to do the whole industrial design program at OCAD, that I had not, because I don't think I would have made a good industrial designer, but um, I would have loved to study with him, just to be around him, just to get a sense of how he saw the world and just understand, and just to be around him, just to know more, just to sort of hear more from him. I mean, he was such a wonderful guy, and his students adored him, and he was funny and smart, and he had so many skills. So that was a serious regret of mine. And then, of course, I learned, as we all do, not to regret. That we have regrets, but basically, when we see ourselves regretting, we have to say, okay, I have no control over that. It's done. It's in the past, and so no regrets, as that wonderful tattoo says. And the thing that's great about that tattoo is that it embodies the problem of regretting, right? So that no regrets is like, you have to really wear that tattoo. I mean, people would say you have to own it, or whatever. But really, what it means is, if you're going to have a tattoo that gets screwed up, well, that's your tattoo now, and it means that if you don't have any regrets, then you shouldn't regret that it says regrets instead of regrets, right? Because you're not having any regrets. So it doesn't matter how it's spelled, because you believe in not having any regrets. So it was this sort of, so I had to learn, and this is something which has stayed with me. I still regret. I still miss Velo, of course, and that's fine. That's okay. It's okay to be sad, but I miss Velo, and but what I'm trying not to do, or what I'm trying to let go of, is the fact that I regret that I didn't work with him more. Okay, that's like something I can control. I can say, all right. So this is a long, typical Tim story, right? Of coming around to say basically that if we haven't had a chance to connect, there will be time, and there are other ways for us to connect. But there are things that occur which we cannot see coming. What we can do, though, is check in with ourselves in a day and say, is there something that I really feel is crucial, or that's important, that I haven't done? And maybe I'll do that thing. So it may be something very simple, or simple. It may be something like telling somebody that you love them, or that you miss them, or calling them up, or whatever. Or just saying that you had a good day with somebody, had a nice time. In other words, I'm just now checking in at night and saying, is there something I regret? Because let me take care of it right now. What could I have done in 1995? Knowing that Velo wasn't going to live for very long. Really, I couldn't have done anything at that point. I had to leave. I had to take work. What could I do? So at the same time, it's my memory of Velo, which is keeps me feeling enthused. I mean, he is so enthusiastic about life, and he had such a wonderful, as I say, such a wonderful sense of humor. So my moral of the story is, this kind of thing comes along, and it can make you feel paralyzed. It's like, no, you're not paralyzed at all. We've got lots of things we can do. But one of the things we can start doing is saying, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What are my does my feeling self need to do today? Not, I don't mean like what jobs do I have to do, because there's always bloody work to do. There's always, somebody always needs some piece of paper or some digital document, push this or that, and they can be important. It's like, yeah, there's lots of important stuff. There's lots of crap, but there's lots of important stuff. But are there things you need to do which you've been putting off? You think, oh, I'm still angry with so and so, and if only they would get in touch with me, I'd like to make up. It's like, as they say, don't wait. So if this stupid virus can teach us one thing, it's no regrets, right? So, carpe diem, which means basically go and get a carp for a dime. Even if you don't fish, I don't like fish. I've never have liked fish. It's one of the great things about being a vegetarian is that people say fish. I'm like, no, I hate fish. Well, I don't have to say that. I say, no thanks. I'm vegetarian. Tea. I also recommend tea. Okay, so the moral of the story today is I will be emailing you back. That's what I came here to say. And I wound up telling this long-ass story. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. I will show you another toy tomorrow. All right. No regrets.